Hey guys, today I want to talk about music and how music can be a distraction in a game. Not just because that sometimes music will cover what you're hearing and it'll make it harder to hear your allies or the game sounds that you need to be listening to, or just the video that you're trying to listen to. But I also want to explain a little bit how music has a psychological effect on you, and that music can be distracting even though you can still hear everyone on your team. So how I want to explain this is by showing you guys a variety of studies. Now in the background is essentially just a game that I'm playing. It's just a recording. I'm not going to say I did very well. I could blame it on 100 different things. One, that I don't play tanks. But yeah, no matter what it is, I'll let this play for a little bit. But first I want to get into the articles. And the first article I want to get into is an article that they compiled two different studies that were done, and they grabbed 85 novice drivers between the ages of 17 and 18 years old, and they wanted to see how music affected their ability to drive, as well as how music affected them paying attention, as well as their mood. So three different things that it worked on. Now, what they found was that when they were listening to their own music, they had a lot more driving errors, including dangerous behaviors like speeding, aggression, and weaving. And this could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe people are listening to metal music and it makes them be a little bit more aggressive, or maybe metal music calms them down, and maybe it was something like country music that made them more aggressive. We don't really know, but what we do know is when they had their choice of their music, it made their driving have a lot more errors in it, which is the same as playing video games. You're playing a video game and you're listening to music, and you might be really getting into the music, you might start getting into the lyrics or whatever, and you'll start making more mistakes. But we've seen a lot of different studies done on this, and let's look at another study for a second. And this study said the current study shows that listening to music can positively impact mood while driving. But at the same time, it says, additionally, driving performance in high-demand situations is not negatively affected by music. So what's the difference between these two studies? Well, this study was done, and they chose the music that their participants would listen to. While in this study, the participants were able to choose the music that they wanted to listen to, and then they also tested it where they chose the music. And they found that when people were listening to the music that they wanted to listen to, people would make more errors. So this video is based off of, the reason that I want to do this video, the reason that I'm doing this in general, is because I was watching a popular streamer, and he said that if he wanted to climb to Grandmaster, he would do three things. He would turn off his stream, and that's probably, again, distractions in chat, also stream snipers, etc. He said that he would get a better sleep schedule, which, again, he probably wasn't getting very much sleep streaming, so that's another reason why he was down. And the last thing that he said was he would turn off all of his music. And I thought that was interesting, so I did a bunch of research on it. I found these articles. I thought that was really cool, and I started testing it out myself. And I found that I was doing better while not listening to music. But I found that I started getting annoyed a little bit faster. And that's where this study comes in as well, is listening to music was positively affecting or positively impacting mood while driving. Well, my mood was being affected by not listening to music, and I was getting tilted faster, and I was getting burned out faster. Well, if you're tilted, it doesn't matter how big or a difference. You're going to be making tons of errors as it is just because you're tilted. So while I like to use driving as an example for your video games, you don't really get tilted that often while driving, but you do get tilted in video games. Your team picks something weird like, I don't know, Sergeant Hammer, and you don't know how to group up with a Sergeant Hammer, so it just gets a little weird. Or maybe your team just dies a couple times and you start getting tilted. There's a variety of things that can happen, and for me, it really comes down to the music is not just distractions for me. It's also how I stay sane while playing these games. So I personally believe that there are some benefits, even if it's a distraction. But is there a chance that music is actually making you better at the game? And I know a lot of people in the chat are gonna downvote me before they even get to this part of the video. But Is it possible that listening to music actually makes you better at the game? And that's where I want to bring in something called the Mozart effect. And if you've ever heard of the Mozart effect, then you're going to love this. If you haven't heard of the Mozart effect, then you're really going to love this. So, in 1993, there was a guy who made this claim that said, listening to Mozart makes you a smarter person. And then a bunch of psychologists wanted to just throw him under the bus for this claim. But after testing it, doing studies, and multiple peer reviews, everyone came to the same conclusion, that listening to Mozart for 10 minutes makes you smarter for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And I know that sounds really dumb, that it only lasts for 10 to 15 minutes, but there were measurable differences. The average seems to be between 8 and 9 points of IQ difference by listening to Mozart. Now, later in this study, they explained that they tested it out with Bach as well as a variety of other classical artists, and it works with most classical music. So, there are types of music that can increase your intelligence temporarily. So if you really wanted to min-max your situation in Heroes of the Storm to move up, or whatever game you're playing, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, CSGO, doesn't matter. If you wanted to truly increase it, you can increase your intelligence by 8 to 9 points simply by listening to Mozart. They tested the long-term effects and found that there were essentially no long-term effects of this. They had people do it for 6 months. They had people test this out for all this time. There really were no long-term effects. We don't exactly know why it's caused by classical music. As far as we can tell with brain scans, it comes down to increased blood flow in the brain while listening to that music, and that blood flow increase lasts for the next 15 minutes. Why it happens with classical music, we don't know. It's kind of one of those things of metal music seems to help plants grow. Yes, that is a real thing. Why? We have a bunch of theories about it, but none of them that were testable enough to where we could prove anything. So, yes, music can make you worse at playing video games in the same sense that music can make you worse at driving. Yes, music can make you happier while you're doing it, which means you're less likely to tilt. And yes, there is some small cases where music can make you better at video games as well as better at doing other things. There's a professor at Stanford who explains that he recommends all of his students go and listen to Mozart before they take any test, and I always think that's great. Some people say listen to Mozart while studying, as you'll be better at studying. I've never actually tried that, but I might try that later. The last thing I wanted to share was a website that I've always been fascinated with and a concept that I've always been fascinated with. So if anyone's ever taken IO psychology, they would know this website. And this website is called Mood Music. And the way that Mood Music works is essentially they give you a variety of genres, but then they also give you possible moods and solutions that you can do. Well, these solutions are like just tools and stuff, but they give you moods that if you wanted a specific mood for an area, let's say for example you are retail and you want people to go into your store and you want them to be happy and you want them to be excited so that they're more likely to purchase. Well, Mood Music has gotten psychologists together and they've tested out a variety of studies to see what music incites what type of mood, and then they've used that to connect it to certain styles of stores and businesses to improve productivity, to improve sales, and to just incite certain feelings. If you are at a motivational conference, these guys will tell you exactly what type of music that you can play. If you're at healthcare, you can find music that's won't make anyone upset, that'll calm people down. There's a variety of different things that they do, and it's a really fascinating website because the styles of music that they produce. So I just wanted to explain Mood Music. This isn't really a sales pitch for them, but it's interesting and related to the actual thing. So I'd like to know in the comments below, do you feel like music makes it you better at video games? Does it make you worse at video games? Have you tested both of them? Have you tested actually trying to see if it makes you better or worse? I also want to know what type of music changes your mood. I find for me, pop always gets me upbeat. Country always kind of makes me calmer, or more calm anyways. Same with classical, it really calms me down. But whenever I work out, I always listen to rock or electronic music. So What type of music do you listen to when? Does it affect your mood? I'd love to know in the comments below. Thank you.